Welcome back, WNST, Dallas and Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are hoping and recommending that you set a place on your dial right next to the BALs and the 98 Rocks and the clear channels and all those places. Set us a place on the AM dial, now made available by the Ford Motor Company. We're going to be out doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour. We're doing a dozen dates this summer. We're doing the Oyster Tour in conjunction with our 25th anniversary. 25 years on August the 3rd. We're going to begin it over Costas and Drug City. It is all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I'll be giving away these instant lottery scratch-offs as well as the Lucky Sevens, and our friends at Window Nation, 866-90Nation, who put us on the road. Had a great time up in Falston last week at the local. We're getting the Shannons. We're getting the Spirits West. We're going to be back at Costas. I'm going all over the city. Hang out, check it out at Crab Cake Tour under the tab at Baltimore Positive. This guy made sure that AM radio stays in vehicles here in the Baltimore metropolitan area. Of course, you can get us on TuneIn. You can get us a million different ways, but AM 1570 is still the mothership for all things, with our friend Dennis Koulatsos, who's heard here every Thursday from 3 until 5, and then on Sunday from 8 until noon. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes Luke's on, sometimes he brings Robbie in from that busy schedule with the Golden Auctions people and all that. Good to have you on, Dennis. Welcome aboard. I know it's baseball season, but this football thing, I'm getting my last sort of like itch kick in before they shut everything down for 8 weeks. And how are you feeling? How's the fish biting? All right?
Fish are biting. I got to share a story with you. Saturday morning, bright and early, about 9:30 a.m. In walks in a customer picking up his tags for his brand new Ford F-150. Got his grandson with him. Grandson is probably about 9 or 10 years old. Got a number 3 jersey on. I was saying, young man, let me see what's on the back of that jersey. Odell Beckham Jr. So yes, Nestor, although the Orioles are doing real well.
When you said a number 3 jersey, you didn't say what jersey. And I'm thinking, was he wearing a Bill Ripken?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking, no, okay.
No, this was a Ravens jersey, black, with a purple trim. But here he is, a young man under 10 years old, rocking an Odell Beckham Jr. jersey already. So the
Odell Beckham's his Roger Carr.
Right, that's exactly right. His Roger Carr. There you go. But let's see, Roger Carr. Yeah, he had some injuries too, but he was a very fast, very speedy receiver with good hands, right? But so Ravens fever is still alive and well as we gear up for the season. Under 90 days until we kick it off, Nestor. So it's right around the corner.
Well, I've talked baseball, and Luke and I got into some football earlier this week, and it sort of wet my whistle a little bit because the Orioles have made it fun to talk about them. We had the Preakness. Lord knows I'm doing all sorts of crab cake tours, political issues, the governor, the mayor. Everybody's coming on the show this summer, catching up for crab cake. So I'll get to all of that. And I'm going to take a little downtime here at some point later in the month and take a breather. You may hear some greatest hits and whatnot, because it's sort of that time of the year where I'm resetting the crab cake tour, the oyster tour, and knowing like in 8 weeks, like John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta in the job that I used to do professionally that I no longer do, thanks to Chad Steele, which is cover the football team, that I know we're getting up on the big run. And in the meantime, this baseball thing's been fun. Hey, the Terps were fun for basketball, right? Like whether it's lacrosse, whether it's the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final, whatever you're into, the Orioles have been, I don't know, it's made me very wistful in my 25th year. It's made me almost emotional to want to write about it. I've been doing some writing and re-releasing the Peter Principles, but it's gotten me away for the first time in a long time. And part of this is Chad Steele throwing me out illicitly. It's just my mind moving away from football this time of the year, where that free agency draft, my God, we had a hot stove for football here with Lamar that was literally a Lamar-a-thon. It was the biggest offseason of Ravens. Is he, isn't he? What are they? What is he? What are they? What's his Instagram? Like all of that went on in a way that it never did here for any Ray Lewis, any Joe Flacco, any Peter Boulware, any John Otten, no, any Cal Ripken. No, there's never been anything like it. Then they come back and like, oh, they're not going to play for 4 months, right? But I want to evaluate the team a little bit and whether this is fool's gold or whether this is a playoff team and the things that have to go right and the things that have to go wrong for them to win a Super Bowl. I mean, I look, Super Bowl's February 11th. It's in Las Vegas. It's a Vegas Super Bowl, right? Crazy. But where are you with them? I mean, first things, do you have tickets this year? You buying tickets? You doing any road trips? You going to London? You doing any of that stuff?
Yeah, I've had season tickets since 1996, and prior to that, of course, that season tickets for the Colts. But yeah, I'm all in with the Ravens. I don't know. I don't think I want to make the London trip, but I plan on using my season tickets. Buddy of mine got a suite for the opener against Houston, so I'm looking forward to that. But I think this is a roster with a lot of talent on it, but health as always is going to be the key. Can this team be healthy? Can they stay healthy? Can they get healthy? A lot of guys coming back from injuries. Odell Beckham Jr. didn't play a single down last year, so of course he's up there. Rashad Bateman, another big story. He can be wide receiver one if he's healthy. Zay Flowers, how's this rookie wide receiver going to pan out? J.K. Dobbins, kind of brooding on Twitter. He doesn't see another contract coming. So
well, let's dive into that. Dive into that a little bit. That Lamar didn't have an agent. He had hanger-ons giving him advice and his mother, right?
Yep.
Roquan Smith, no agent, gets himself dealt out of Chicago, and I don't know whether he forced that or pushed that or whether they just sort of knew they got their value. He got his bag. He got put into a really good situation, right? So a lot of these guys with agents or with Patrick Queen, smart guy, first-round draft pick, LSU guy, connected
Very
guy.
smart.
A guy like Odell Beckham would say the Giants were so 4 teams ago for me. They haven't paid me in 4 years, but I've made $80 million since I left the Mara family, and things worked out just fine. And Lamar looked like he was ready. Nobody wanted Lamar. You and I did months on no one wanting Lamar at that level at all. So, that's a fact. And whether he goes back to stuff it up my backside or anybody else that's ever doubted him or doesn't fully believe, but I would say to you that players and their expectations, much like your employees or my former employees, they had levels of expectation about salary, love, awards, what they can do. I mean, in the NFL, it's very clear. Make money. Winning's nice. You make more when you win, but it's a business. And Patrick Queen is doing the things right now that if they win the Super Bowl, he'll go get him some Ed Hartwell money, or current day. He'll get a lot of money if they win this year. And I don't think being uppity is his methodology to being a well-paid Atlanta Falcon next year or a well-paid Pittsburgh Steeler next year. Whereas the Dobbins thing, I thought, dude, are you a grown-up? It's weird to me. 2 guys, same situation. They are hanging on at this point, and they can play for a contract. But such is the state of the NFL. It's not for long, right? They know this going in.
I've said it for a long time, Nestor. Running backs get the short end of the stick, right? Their wheels have come off by the time it's them to get a contract. J.K. Dobbins had a injury, ACL tear in college. He's had one with the pros now. Again, it's just the worst position to play in the NFL. They're like eagles. They come out of the nest ready to fly. They get a lot of yardage, a lot of baggage on them by the time their contract comes up. And unlike Patrick Queen, he's only 23 years old, by the way, which is great
23?
for him. He's just a baby. Yeah, he was a very young player when he was drafted out of college. And that's the thing with Queen. I don't know that.
I thought he acted immature on Twitter 3 years. I thought,
he did.
Listen, I don't know these guys. I only know them from their persona. And, Marlon Humphrey, I've gone up to him a dozen times. I only know him through Twitter. And I'm always in a constant bitter beer face with all of these guys saying, this is what you're putting out to the world. This is what you're thinking about on a Tuesday afternoon when you're not playing football and you've got $80 million. And again, I'm not a 25-year-old rock star, right? I'm a 55-year-old washed up rock star. So I view it differently, but it is fascinating to see, where Roquan Smith was last year and now where he is this year, where Lamar was last year and where he is this year, where Ronnie Stanley was last year and where he is this year. And then these other guys, I just thought it was very unbecoming for Dobbins. I thought, man, little boy, please grow up. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking that's for the whole world to see, but I'm thinking, you're a big enough guy. You went to Ohio State. You're not off the boat here. You sort of knew you ripped your knee up. Somebody smart should have sat next to you and said, you're going to get better. You're going to run the football again. But this is going to be a different path for you. Eric probably has said that to him, right?
Look, he's a fine young man. He works his butt off. He did a great job rehabbing last year. People talk about his breakaway speed. J.K. Dobbins has never had breakaway speed. That was one of the knocks of him coming out of college. Yes, he can go 30, 40, 50 yards in chunks, but he's not the kind of guy like a Tony Dorsett back in the day that's going to rip off a 99-yard touchdown from his own 1-yard line. J.K. Dobbins, though, is a very good player. Depend on how he does this year, what his market value is going to be next year. Same thing with Patrick Queen. So the best thing they can do, just like Patrick, to show up and work hard and do your very best and put yourself in a position to get paid. Just like Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson thought that'd be a bidding war for him, and he was shocked to find out that there were no takers.
He's
Sometimes
truly one of one. He's
he,
so
he
one of
he
one. Other
is.
organizations, they
We go
either can't
look,
figure it out or they don't think they can win with him.
look.
One or the other.
We go back to C.J. Mosley, and the Ravens wanted to sign him for $10 or $11 million a year, and the Jets gave him what, $15-16 million a year. That goes both ways in terms of a player's value and how teams perceive that value, and also the fit with their team. So the season will have to be played and played out just to see what kind of contract these guys earn, and they have to stay healthy. That's the other piece of it. But I also think the Ravens would love to keep Patrick Queen, and if they can fit him under the salary cap, depending what his market is in 2024, Nestor, I think they'll take a shot at keeping him.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He will be back here on Thursday from 3 until 5, talking about these kinds of things with me and Luke and others on the Sunday Sports Voice. Of course, heard on Sunday mornings from 8 until noon. If you're out hitting the golf ball, maybe going to church, or just enjoying the good weather, or maybe going fishing on a Sunday morning, or getting ready for Oriole baseball. It's going to be on this weekend. Make sure you're tuning Dennis and us in, and of course, getting over to Coons Baltimore Ford and finding out about all those new and pre-loved Ford motor vehicles. So the football side of me at this time of the year, it's a fascinating Twitter thing, right? Like where who's the best this or who's the best that or who's got the best wide receiver room or all of that. I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit this week with you because I don't think we've talked enough about it because it's been a lot of oxygen for Lamar, a lot of oxygen that's still going to be breathed for your buddy and his 9-year-old boy, for Odell Beckham, who's that jersey's going to need a new one next year because Odell Beckham could be online saying, I'm not going to be here next year because he's probably not going to be here next year because I've looked at the salary cap. So for the offensive line and for this season, because and I'm going to write about this as we get closer to the year because it certainly feels that way. It feels like there's some years the Ravens are good, very good, young. This feels to me like a loaded up season against the salary cap, that there's going to come a deflation at some point in their talent level. They're going to have to draft way over their heads. If they play as good as you think they're going to play, they're going to be picking 28th or 32nd or 31st or something that, makes us feel good in January, makes us feel bad in April, right? But for me with the team and having Beckham, Roquan Smith prime, Marlon Humphrey prime, Patrick Queen prime and playing for a contract, Ronnie Stanley, Andrews in the middle of all of it, right? He's high. They got a lot of, I go back to when it was, well, how are we going to pay Ray and Suggs and Nada and Flacco and Bolden? How are we going to pay Ray Rice? How are we going to pay all of these good players? Dennis, these guys have won one playoff game as as a unit and barely won that. So I look at all of these. Roquan Smith, he was in hell until he got here, right? So yes. Odell Beckham's got a ring and comes in with a bag and a ring and all of these expectations. And then there's the Todd Monken thing, like that I hear more about him when I go out. People come up to me and they don't talk to me about Lamar. They talk to me about the mad genius offensive coordinator. And I keep coming back to the offensive line and thinking, like, when we start the season, how's that going to look? How's that going to be? A bunch of 30-somethings. That if I'm concerned about anything with the team, it's not whether Lamar's going to be upright or not in December, January. That's always a concern. It's not whether Todd Monken's going to draw him upright or how Beckham's going to come back. I'm okay with all of that. But the big picture for me is this thing goes as the offensive line goes. And I don't know where the depth is, but I know they've had guys that haven't been injured a lot. They have another guy that's been injured a ton. And they're really counting on these guys. We're not talking Zeitler, Morgan Moses, and Ronnie Stanley. We talk about all the Dobbins popping off, and Odell Beckham would be popping off soon, and Lamar will be driving too fast on Instagram. It'll be all of that crap. But then they got to go play on Sunday, and you'll be up in your suite, and they're playing Houston. Boy, the offensive line to me is the thing I want to talk the most about, because whatever Monken's trying to do, this effectiveness of Jackson downhill and how they're going to run the ball and how they're going to throw the ball and how they're going to protect for Lamar. The offensive line needs to play better than 30 somethings and more reliably than 30 somethings in regard to injury and in regard to how much time John's going to have to be giving guys off Wednesday and Thursday come November and December, because this is, I don't want to say a grandfatherly group because they played great last year. They did. And Stanley got better. But the offensive line needs to be focused. It needs to be talked about. And I don't know that a lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, they were the number 2 ranked offensive line last year by Pro Football Focus. They managed to stay healthy for the most part for the entire year. But you're right. If Ronnie Stanley goes down with an injury, that's going to mess things up. They can certainly flip-flop some guys around. You can put Morgan Moses at left tackle, for instance. He can do a serviceable job there. Slot Daniel Falele, their huge mammoth offensive tackle from last year, to right tackle. But
yeah, is that a Ja Reed or or is that like a real, or is that an Orlando Brown that's going to play 10 years senior I'm talking about.
We're going to find out. We may find out. We may not find out, but we'll see what happens. Can Ben Cleveland replace Ben Powers properly at left guard? That's a big job there. Competitions he'll have with John Simpson, former Raider, that they like a lot. So I think, to your point, they're going to go as far as the offensive line can take them. It always gets down to the trenches, offensive line, defensive line, and health is a big factor. But you're right, there's some age on that offensive line, and like you said, these guys may need some days off during the week.
Well, getting Linderbaum working with Jackson in the new offense, especially with handling the ball, right? I mean, like, so much of Lamar in the beginning, and I was wrong about this, right? I mean, I gladly admit when Lamar holds the parade coming down Pratt Street, I will say, I misjudged Lamar. Lamar's won one playoff game in 5 years, hasn't played a football game in December in 3 years. So and just got a bag of money and nobody else wanted him. So that's where we are with Lamar. So I will continue on that. And when they're 11-1 and people are making fun of me in November because Lamar is so great, it's still going to be about, is he healthy and can he win games in January? This team will be judged in January. I'm sure they're going to be fine. I think Lamar's a fine quarterback. I just don't know that he's going to beat the gauntlet. But all that being said, with Lamar and this offseason, for everything that's gone on, the center quarterback exchange part and the part where Lamar is sleight of hand with the football with Dobbins and Gus Edwards, and go back to any of the running backs he ever handed the ball to, right? I thought that the ball would hit the carpet more in this offense. I really did. And that's a real testament to Lamar Jackson and his ability to take care of the football and the communication of, if the tackle bites in, you're taking whatever the keys are and the reads are that they're seeing with their eyes. And I've been down on that field, man. The game moves fast. They're big men. I thought the ball would hit the carpet more, and it hasn't. And that changes games. I mean, had they fumbled 5 more times a year in that exchange over 17 games, it wouldn't be like an outrageous number, but it would cost them football games. That's been the best part of the Lamar thing. And I think having his center and a center you drafted for him, and a guy that had a little health concerns and some size concerns and stuff, but they were in love with Linderbaum, so much so that, dealing off a draft pick and everything that happened to bring him in here. I'm that's the part of this that if they win a Super Bowl, that if I were writing a Purple Rain 3, I would go back and say, how'd you get the center? Because I think he's going to be a huge part of this. And I know the Ravens were never the same after Matt Burke left. It was never the same for Joe. It changed everything for Joe. And I think if I brought Joe in right now, he's played with 100 centers. He would probably tell you, we won a Super Bowl because we had Matt Burke and we didn't have a guy, just the guy they brought in from Tampa that was just a guy.
Well, and Burke, he was a bit undersized, just like Linderbaum, and I'm glad that the Ravens did draft Linderbaum, an athletic center, a guy that can get to the second and third level, versus a big 325, 350-pound mauler who just wouldn't have the feet to play in this offense. So I think Linderbaum has the athleticism. He has the feet to play center in the Todd Monken offense. He has spent now 1 full year in the NFL weight room. I expect him to be bigger, faster, stronger, the real deal. I saw him the other day, and I mean, his neck is just super
Dude, the
thick.
weight room in Iowa has to be better than the weight room in Owings Mills, right?
I
I mean,
don't know about that,
I'm not being mean, but like, I think that that's probably true around the NFL, right?
but
That Ohio State and Alabama probably have a better gym,
they probably do. You,
and a
you,
lot of guys probably say a better program, given that the guy that got them
I,
all COVID. They threw him out, and then Harbaugh hired the assistant. Like the strength and conditioning program and keeping guys healthy, we don't talk enough about that
It's
around here.
huge.
We
Yeah,
really don't.
it's very big. I mean, of course, they moved away from Steve Saunders. That apparently the other players didn't like. They hated the guy, and they have a different squad in there, right? Different leadership. But I'm very excited about Linderbaum leading the offensive line. He is a leader by example. And you're right, though the exchange between him and Lamar have been very good. We go back to games where the ball was snapped over Lamar's head. We've seen Lamar make some acrobatic catches. He has very good hands, and I think it's contributed in them not putting the ball on the ground. Uh, but again, it's a working process, right? This defense is much further ahead with Mike McDonald being there for the second year in a row. But the offense is a work in progress, and let's see what it looks like when these guys finally hit the field. I'm talking about Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. Let's not forget the tight ends. You mentioned Mark Andrews, but Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler, I think they have a chance to be a very special group. Um, they're going to run a lot of two tight end formations too. There's only one football, so I'm curious to see how this offense what it's going to look like once you get on the field.
Well, for me with the offense, how much are we really going to pass the football? I mean, what is your expectation level? As you're going down to see the Houston game, they're not going to be very good. I mean, you would hope that this would still be a run first outfit in regard to getting 8 yards on first down or 7 yards.
Wow.
That was always the plan of the Dobbins Lamar thing, but that was always the sleight of hand that Lamar is going to put himself into the jelly and make a decision on the fly as to whether it's go or hand it off. Uh, I mean, you can pass out of those that's fine. You can pass out of those sets, but this is different than putting Pat Ricard on the field, going heavy, going too tight end, willing your way into 2nd and 2, the way they did we always talk about 2019, and I mean, tick tock, that's getting to be really ancient history at this point, but it was a thing of beauty, and it was a thing that everything else gets judged against until defenses made adjustments to adjust, because the Ravens didn't do it by fumbling the ball and beating themselves. They did it because Lamar was accurate, hit passes. They ran the ball in the red zone. Well, I mean, all of these things that have just dissipated over the last 3 years and all been blamed on Greg Roman, even though the quarterback's got himself broken in two twice.
Yeah, there's no question about that, Nestor. I think first down is the most important down in the NFL. You're much better off having 2nd and 2 or 3 versus 2nd and long, 3rd and long. That's when the Ravens and other teams get themselves in trouble. But I don't think it matters how they get there, whether it's via the run or the pass, 2nd and short, whether it's by the pass or the run. And I think they're going to be a 50-50 team. I think they'll run the ball half the time. They'll pass the ball the other half. Look, they were number one in the NFL the last couple of years in terms of run first at 55-56%. Seahawks were, I believe, right behind them. But I think you'll see more of a balanced offense. But the whole key is that first down, how they spread the field out. And that's the other exciting part, to watch Lamar in space. I think he's probably the best space quarterback in NFL history. And let's see him out of the phone booth. And for all intents and purposes, Greg Roman did a great job with him back in 2019. But now let's get him out in space. Let's spread out the field. Let's really make the defense defend every blade of grass, which was Greg Roman's intention. But it didn't work out that way. So Todd Monken has the same philosophy, make the defense defend every blade of grass. But I think that's easier done when you can have guys that can stretch the field, such as Bateman, Zay Flowers, Devin Duvernay, and hopefully a healthy Odell Beckham Jr.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He will be back here on Thursday and again on Sunday. I will be a part of his program, of course, the Sunday Sports Voice, heard here on AM 1570. From the off-season part of this and the draft, God, the draft feels like a long time ago, right? It was like 5-6 weeks ago, but it feels like a long time ago. We've been talking about Zay Flowers, it feels like, for 3 months. We're about to go into this sort of quiet period. What else are you watching around the league? Like, I've been doing a little bit of traveling, and I was in New York last week, and the Aaron Rodgers thing is fascinating in that and you were the first guy. They're a contender now, right?
Yep.
And Josh Allen's going to be on the cover of the Madden thing, right? And I all over my timeline. I don't know whether it's maybe the blue that I wear, the Coons Ford blue. They think I'm a Chargers fan. I see Justin Herbert throwing passes on my timeline and the Joe Burrow thing playing out. And then how many people believe the Steelers stink, that they're going to be the last place team in the division for the first time in Mike Tomlin's tenure? And then how many people are just somehow bullish on the Cleveland Browns and thinking that Deshaun Watson is an elite football player, is a top 5 quarterback who will laugh at Lamar when we talk about Deshaun Watson when it's all over, because he's going to make such a huge difference in Cleveland in taking that moribund franchise, and somehow they're going to win 12 games. They're not all going to win 12 games. So everywhere you get some hope right now, but you also get some sort of sinking reality in some other places where the team's going to be bad. But like the Lions think they're going to be good this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know the Eagles are going to be good, right? So there's places where there's this quiet hope where there hasn't been a Lamarathon. I mean, what happened here in the offseason is just, you better hope it doesn't happen with Adley Rutschman, right? I mean, like that it gets to that point where you have this premier player who just bang pots and pans until he got what he wanted. Now he's got what he's wanted. Now he's got to go win a Super Bowl. And I think the level of expectation here is going to change. In other places, I mean, the Jets have 6 months to get this done. I mean, Joe Namath's offering his number. You know what I mean? And you think it's a big difference maker. There's a lot of that in the NFL right now, city to city and franchise to franchise this time of the year, to look and evaluate and say, can we win? The beauty of the NFL, there are 20 teams that think they can win the Super Bowl right now.
And the Pittsburgh Steelers are one of them. You know Mike Tomlin well. I'm sure he's got that up on his bulletin board already. People predicting they're going to finish in last place. People aren't paying attention. They don't know football. They don't know Mike Tomlin. They haven't seen how strong that Pittsburgh defense is. They can run the ball. If this kid Pickens keeps developing, the wide receiver Kenny Pickett, their quarterback, takes another step, Pittsburgh could. I see them right in the mix. I mean, I don't see the Ravens sweeping them. I don't see the Bengals sweeping, and I sure as hell don't see the Browns sweeping them either. The last thing Mike Tomlin needs is motivation to get his team going.
Well, in this assumption that the Bengals will go back to being Bungles or whatever, and somehow they're going to mess up the Burrow thing, right? I'm giving the Bengals the hall pass that I've seen the white jerseys, I've seen the enthusiasm, I see where they are in the marketplace, I see where the quarterback is, I see the leadership, I see the other players around the quarterback there, and they're an is, they're not a might be to me. And I think the Ravens are an is too.
Absolutely.
Browns not so much. I'm not beating up the Steelers. I don't think they're, but the quarterback has to show me more in this division. But I still think the Bengals are the best team in the division, and people talking about the Browns in sort of that breath because Watson's got like a full year behind him without a massage or whatever. None of that even matters. Like him going out and playing for that franchise and doing it for 17 weeks and showing me he can win 12 or 13. I'd bet against that. I don't bet on sports, but I'd bet against that.
Yeah, I mean, I bet on organizations. Just the Ravens, the Steelers have been the class of that division for many, many years, the AFC North, and it's hard for me to bet against them. Now, like you said, the quarterback for the Steelers has to take a step forward, but it'll be a dogfight, I think, between the Ravens and the Bengals. Let's keep in mind the Ravens went up there to Cincinnati for a playoff game without Lamar Jackson, and had the game in their grasp, except for that awful 14-point turnaround. The defense showed up well. I think the defense will build on that performance. And if they can get some consistency with the offense and a modern day offense at that, an attacking offense, they do have a chance to make a deep run into the playoffs. But to your point is, let's just win the first playoff game. Let's get into the playoffs, win the first one, and then start stacking from then. Hopefully, to get a second playoff win and gain some momentum heading into the conference championship.
I did a deep dive with Luke this week on Todd Monken. I was at Costas on Sunday night eating my first crabs of the year, delicious, with my buddy David Katz from formerly Fox Sports and Yahoo. We had a good time over there, but we watched the Oriole game, and I had 5 people talk football with me at the bar, and all of them were talking about Todd Monken. So that's really people are Lamar'd out, and they're Dobbins out, they're all, but Monken is the new thing. So I want to talk to you about that and how much what we really can expect from a coordinator and the vilification of all coordinators in the end, right? Like Giro was my dog until like Lamar gets hurt and
Until
then
he
he's
wasn't.
right. Yeah, you know.
No, I like Monk. I mean, look, you can't ignore what he did the last 2 years at Georgia, University of Georgia. Now they had the biggest, baddest defense anywhere, but with Stetson Bennett, a quarterback, and we saw how late he went in the draft. He ran a great dynamic offense. He got guys, he schemed guys open. Guys were running, 10 yards all by themselves. And to me, that's the exciting part of him. He could just scheme the guys open, and we'll see his influence early on. And that has to be exciting for Ravens Nation. We haven't had a modern passing offense now in a long, long time. And the big question is, can Lamar Jackson execute it? That's
That
the other
is the
piece of it.
question.
That's the question. I
And
mean, it's
that's also I'll leave you with this because I really want to dive in. I mean, I go half an hour on this easy, and I'm happy to do that with you Thursday and Sunday on your show. But the notion that you're mad at Greg Roman about things that they didn't do in the offense, maybe he saw things for 5 years on the practice field and said, I don't like Lamar doing that. I don't want Lamar doing that. I don't like our wide receivers. I don't like our blocking scheme in order to do that. So even though they do that over there, we don't do that well. We're not going to do that. And I would see that there are limitations for all these football players to say, Mark Andrews is good at some things. Let's not have him do what Pat Ricard's doing, right? So the notion that Giro didn't love Lamar throwing the ball down the field all day, maybe there was something to that, and maybe it's all Greg Roman's fault if Todd Monken comes in here and in week 6 we got a 5-1 team and we're winning games on the road. And by the way, I looked at that schedule. At Cleveland, at Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, all early, right? Like they got to come out of the gate and play well on the road. Otherwise, they're going to be a 3-3 team and 3-3 in the division, right? Like they can't be that. They have to play well on the road against these division teams in the beginning of the season. And that's a hard look. Harbaugh, I'll say this: the Orioles are off to a good start, and under Earl Weaver, they could never get off to a good start. And they bought themselves enough rope here. Harbaugh's teams always get on. I mean, we're always real happy with John Harbaugh in October around here, right?
We
I
are.
mean, literally, they always get off to a good start.
But you know what? I think John's got another 2 years left with his extension, and if the Ravens don't make a noise this year, he could very well be on a hot seat at some point, right? Because, uh, look, do they get conservative at times? Does John say, "Hey, stop putting the ball up in the air"? He doesn't like turnovers.
Conservative. He goes on 4th and 6 from his own 35. I mean, come on, dude.
Between being conservative and being stupid, okay?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, there was this when you're running the ball like they were running it. 19's cockiness begat 20 and 21 and 22 struggles. Like in regard to
of course.
4th and 3 from your own 44, John, you're going to go to it. We're going to take the ball away from you and ram it up your, like that's the other side. That's the Rex Ryan defense saying that's disrespectful to say you're going to go on 4th and 4 against us.
Well, the problem is once they got in the red zone, they didn't score points. In 2019, they came away with touchdowns and field goals. In 2022, they came away with 0 turnovers.
But Roman got blamed for that. And the amazing part is out of the box in 19, Luke and I and you sat here for 2 years saying they're never going to get stopped in the red zone because especially inside the 5, they have a matchup advantage with a guy with a first step like nobody has ever seen before. Like,
but teams started stopping it, right? I mean, defensive coordinators aren't stupid. Once they get stuff on tape, they do things to take it away from you, and that's hence the chess match. Then you zig when they zag, etc. But like I said, there's a fine line between being stupid and conservative and everything else that goes along with it. But hopefully they'll get big leads in games, Nestor, and then they'll run the ball effectively to bleed the clock, and we'll see what that looks like. But defense wins championships, and the Ravens do have enough of a defense to bring a championship to Baltimore in 2023.
Todd Monken and a deep dive, a conversation with Dennis and Nestor. We'll do that a little later on this week. You can find Dennis over at Coons Baltimore Fort Security Boulevard anytime that he's not fishing or enjoying little bits of summer or an Oriole game or time with his mother. Give me the elevator pitch on my wife still has not pulled the trigger on the vehicle. What's going on with vehicles right now? What do you got in stock?
Well, we got a lot of vehicles in stock. They're arriving more frequently now. And Ford Motor Credit They're supporting us with 0 for 36 for most models. So a lot of people out there that have cash, they don't want to pay interest. Guess what? Put that money in a high yield savings account, earn 4 to 5% on it, and take advantage of 0 for 36 or 0.9 for 48 months. So we have a lot of great deals on the hood. A lot of vehicles we have on the Great American sale right now. That's Ford's pitch at this point. First responders, military, you get an extra $1,000 even in the household, Nestor. So though if somebody hasn't served or isn't a first responder, but they're married to a nurse or a doctor or someone in the military, active or retired, they get an extra $1,000, which I think is fantastic.
All right, well, let's get everybody out. I'm wearing the Coons logo here. You're seeing the commercials in Orioles game. Seeing Crystal doing that. Orioles out in Milwaukee, and then, of course, back home this weekend, or home, as we would say here in Baltimore. It is crab cake eating season. We're taking a crab cake tour out on the road, courtesy of our friends at the Maryland Lottery. I'll be giving these away. The schedule's up at Baltimore Positive. It's a summer long. Got about a dozen, and then we're going to have our big anniversary on August the 3rd. Write that down. 25 years. Dennis, I'm going to have my Lamar Jackson moment. You know what I mean? A lot of people bet against me, bet against the program. You're one of the guys that bet on the program. I'm going to be writing about you and speaking with love this summer about everyone that's kept this thing going for 25 years. And I'm addressing my latest Facebook post, Dennis, and you know what? We will take this on Thursday. But a listener sent me a note and said, why don't the Orioles and Ravens let you in? I mean, can't you meet with someone and try to fix that? So I'm going to take that on Thursday.
Okay,
so
well, can't wait. That's a great teaser. Can't wait to talk about that.
Well, I put it up. So it is. I put the note up and I just said, what do you think of this? Like, it seems to make sense to you that I'm 55 and a grown up and I've done this professionally, that they let Luke in and don't let me in. Why don't you ask them? But I'm having fun with it. It's summertime here. And I'll say this with the Orioles, this heartbeat of having the Orioles, when they take a day off, it kind of screws up the whole day, you know?
It does. I mean, look, I got my big eye on the Orioles, small eye on the NBA Finals. Heat and the Nuggets tied 1-1. It's a fun series to watch. So that's what I'm watching right now. Watching Orioles baseball and NBA Finals.
I'll talk later about how you can't find the hockey finals. That's a whole different Apple Plus, Amazon Prime. Where's Joe Buck? When's the game on? Are the Orioles on TV this Friday, or do I have to give my credit card to Apple? There's all of that happening.
I knew that was coming. I don't know if you saw that YouTube now has a Sunday NFL ticket. I didn't see how much they're asking for it, but they had $100 off special I saw on TV the other day.
Well, if it's $100 off, I bet it's at least $100 on. You know, I mean,
at least they're not breaking even. I want to say $200, right? But so now you can watch the NFL ticket on YouTube anytime you want to.
Look, you and I, we will take a deeper dive, and I do want to do the Monken thing with you. But I have been talking a ton to business people, which is what I do. Marty Conway, Eric Fisher, Barry Bloom was on last week, talking about baseball and just what the real model is going to be. And Barry Bloom, Eric said this to me. Eric Fisher said to me, well, baseball, they're actually going to have to get their revenue from like their real fans now. Instead of like just sucking cable television money, which they've done as long as I've been on radio. Honestly, they've just made all of this mystery money from cable people, giving them $4 a month without anybody realizing it. Now they're going to have to get that directly from their customers. And I keep thinking about, what is this model where I get the television package for being a season ticket holder, right? Like if I buy the 13 game plan, you're going to give me the other 150 on TV, right? Like that has to be part of the bundle to get people to the ballpark. So the paradigm, and I spent all night eating crabs with David Katz the other day, just talking about gambling, money, live fans at games, and then his business, which is television. He's been at Fox forever, and just how the funnel begins with your 9-year-old friend being able to watch Odell Beckham play and not having to ask dad, how do we get to watch him play? The jersey's already on. Now make it easy for the kid to watch the game, right? And to your point, the YouTube thing, DirecTV, I never had DirecTV because I was like not going to put a satellite dish on the roof.
Exactly right.
I lived in a building downtown where I physically couldn't have DirecTV. So I would walk across the street to Hooters to watch a San Diego game if I, or whatever I would do to get those games. Then the red zone happened. And I remember you didn't even know what the red zone was. And then you're like, red zone, man, red zone. So the red zone is kind of devalued the fact that you would want 15 games on. And when I get those 15 games at once, and I've done this as a media member back when I was a real media member, in every press box, they would have every game. It's hard to watch 5 games.
It is.
So unless you're out of market and you want the game, but the YouTube thing's interesting to me, but then you have to have Wi-Fi that's fast enough to support it all too. Where Luke lives in Pennsylvania, it's weird. I mean, we're in a weird spot for live sports, tickets, pricing, beer pricing once you get there, parking, all the safety, all of those issues we have. But more than that, how are we going to consume games moving forward? Because it's a broken model. I mean, the Padres went out of business last week for television, right? Like literally, their cable company just said take it back. So there's a lot going on, a lot of change this summer, Dennis.
A lot of changes. There's only so much money to go around too. People can only spend so much for their entertainment. There's a point where they say enough. I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay to watch this, or I'm not going to pay as much to watch this.
JT the Brick was at Dodger Stadium the other day, and I follow him out on Twitter. And he's a Yankee fan. He's from New York. So he's at Dodgers Yankees out in LA, and he's enjoying himself. He put a drink up. It was a Michelada. You know what? It's like a Bloody Mary sort of thing with a red. I don't know what the hell it is. I've never had one. It's like a Bloody Mary with beer, I think. I don't even know. It's like he put it up. He put the picture, and he said, I'm at Dodger Stadium. How much is this drink?
$25.
I said 23. Okay. My
Okay.
wife said 21.
Okay.
Everybody on the internet guessed. It was Bob Barker, dude. It was 29. Everybody came in underneath. Nobody said 29, 32, 35. Everybody came in at 19, 21, 23, 24, $29 for a drink. And, you know, I wrote back to him on Twitter. I'm like, we're getting to the point where all of our life we've gone to the movie theater and we've paid too much for popcorn, right? I mean, we're just like, the popcorn was $8 when it should have been $3. It's $12 when it should be $6. We've always done that and just said, we're at the movie. We're getting extra butter, 50 cents, $1, whatever, butter all over our fingers, watching Star Wars, right? And we were like, it's what it's you expect it. You get premium charge, gouge, ripped off, whatever you would call it. When it's $29 for a drink at the game, all of a sudden you're ripping me off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a point where you're getting literally ripped off. And once you feel that way, it's really hard if you feel like you've been ripped off to ever like roll back on that and say, charge me $29 for a 12-ounce drink. Like what?
Well, I mean, it's all. I mean, what's the bottle of water now at the stadium? Is it $5? Is it
See,
$6?
I mean, and that's an amazing thing. I went into the Lyric the other night to see Mellencamp, and I don't drink as much beer like at a show. And a lot of times they don't have the beer I want. No offense. I just like I'm there and they have 5 beers and it's not what I want. And I'm like, just give me the water. I'm fine. I'm not going to drink a beer I don't want. So, especially not at $14. I got 3 waters. The bill came with the tip. It was, $18, right? And I'm thinking to myself, and this isn't like I love the Lyric, and it was $4.50, right? Cash this, give her $2, $3 tip, whatever. It was $18 on my credit card. And I'm thinking to myself, in what universe would I be walking in the woods thirsty or anywhere in life that's not a concert, a ball game, right? I mean, even on a plane, when I fly, the drinks are $7 or $8 and you feel a little ripped off because you don't have a free ticket, right? Or whatever. But like if they came on the plane and offered me a $15 drink on the plane, I'd say, what's wrong with you people? But you go to Merriweather, you don't have any problem. You go to an Oriole game, I'm going to Bryan Adams, like at CFG Bank. I mean, there's a different. We've lost our minds. We get a lobotomy when we walk into these places with our credit card for what food is. It's amazing, right? Like if you did that at Coons Ford, there'd be a line out the door saying, Dennis rips people off. He charges people $5 for water in his lobby.
Here you go. I Googled case of water, 40 16.9 ounce bottles of water on Amazon, $25.49. 40 freaking bottles. Nestor.
It's the cost of going and seeing John Mellencamp the other night. Whether it's the $150 for the ticket, whether I don't know what to say.
And you're thirsty. You have something. You want something to drink, right? So you opt for water versus an alcoholic beverage, or non-alcoholic for that matter. And it costs you an arm and a leg. That's insane.
I paid $7 a piece for water at Seal in New York 2 weeks ago. So I'm not even complaining about the Lyric. I bought 3 waters. There was $25. So like, but the option was 3 drinks would have been $80.
I hear you.
So
I hear you. Loud and clear.
York,
loud and clear.
Dennis, Enjoy yourself this week. I'm enjoying you on Thursday. We will get in. I want to do the Todd Monken thing. We'll do
Okay,
that. We'll talk about pricing in the business sports. I
got it.
meandered. It's what I do around here. I
That's exactly.
ramble on just
We're
like Led
nice
Zeppelin.
Nestor at Mauricio. Maybe that's the ticket now going forward. Nice Nestor.
Well, that'll never catch on. That'll never catch on. People say, why you call yourself nasty? I'm like, if I called myself nice, you wouldn't listen. So there you
You
go.
wouldn't listen. That's
I
exactly
am
right.
Nestor. We are WNST. Dennis is off selling cars. Big appreciation to Window Nation and our friends at the Maryland Lot. If you're sending us out on the road, the Maryland Crab Cake Tour, the schedule's up. Go check it out at Baltimore Positive. Make sure you check Dennis out on Thursday, too. Back for more right after this on WNST AM 1570, where we never stop talking Baltimore Positive.